welcome to Dead Men Walking from the spanking new National Law University right here in the NCR. Today we're going to discuss and debate the death sentence. Let's think of the names: Ajmal Kasab, Bullar, Afzal Guru. All people we would like to see hung from a tree. Now our jails are full of them. Forget terrorists, rapists, wife beaters, child abusers, corrupt babus and politicians. We want all of them killed. Not just punished, we want them killed. Not just electrocuted, not killed by lethal injection. In India, we're still very medieval. We want them hung from the neck. Now, when I say it's what we want, I mean almost everyone. I'm talking about judges, politicians, social workers, responsible people, ordinary people, like you and me. Somehow, we cry out for the death penalty as the ultimate punishment, no matter what the crime. Homer said justice is nothing but vengeance. That was 3,000 years ago. Our nation's founding father, Gandhiji, said an eye for an eye must not end up making the whole world blind. But we remain deaf to his words. So today we'll debate the death penalty, not very often debated in this country. Why does India still have the death penalty? Isn't it time we join the rest of the world in seeing that capital punishment is too barbaric, too brutal, and too cruel to be part of any civilized nation's idea of justice? Okay, first, Brad Adams, the Asian Director of Human Rights Watch, is with us. Venkatesh Nayak from the Commonwealth Human Rights Initiative is also with us. Meenakshi Lekhi, lawyer and Vice President of the BJP's Mahila Morcha. And Ashok Pandit, filmmaker and outspoken activist on Kashmiri Pandit rights. Meenakshi Lekhi, I want to start with you. Why this great upswell in the demand for the death penalty right now in 2011 in this democracy?
Jehangir, I want to correct you because when you were speaking about death penalty, you talked about babus, corrupt, wife beaters, everyone hung. That is not what the law of the land is. And we are all lawyers and budding lawyers sitting here. So we all have to understand correctly that our system doesn't permit everyone to be killed and death penalty to be given to everyone. Death penalty is rarest of the rare. It's meant for people who have committed such sins and such crimes which are abhorrible from any standard. One being murder and the other being terrorist activities, and which also involves mass murders at times. And I have been pleading that if there is a rape accompanied by murder, then death is what the answer should be. And even there, our courts are very reluctant to execute even such people.
Okay.
That's one.
I want to go to Venkatesh to basically say one thing. Meenakshi is absolutely right. That is not what the law of our land says. Yes, repeatedly. As I said, we hear politicians, we hear judges saying, oh, he is so corrupt, he must be hung from a pole. Oh, death penalty to all honor killing. Oh, death penalty to all rapists. We've heard the leader of the opposition, L.K. Advani, ask for the death penalty for all rapists. The death penalty is a great source to channel anger. It's a great way for toothless politicians to put some bite into what they say and to appear tough by saying kill him.
Exactly, and that in fact is the biggest danger with sentencing somebody to death, because it no longer remains a matter between the judicial system of the country and the accused. It becomes a matter for the public to talk about, it becomes a matter for the politicians to do their politicking. And sadly, in the whole process, this very question of whether justice was truly done, whether the person got all opportunities to prove his or her innocence, these things get sidelined, and that in fact is one of the biggest problems. Putting it in the overall context of the manner in which our criminal justice system works, where somebody can be tried without proper legal counsel. And here I'm talking about Afzal Guru.
Jehangir, you know, I want to make things very simple because I'm a victim of terrorism in Kashmir. I've been thrown out of my homeland and I'm a refugee in my own country. And I've seen terrorists giving a punishment to a woman called Sarala Ganju, where she was hanged on the tree. Her breasts were cut. And now people like him say that, you know, justice should be made not to that person who was killed, but the person who killed her. It's a matter of shame. What I want to say is a person who has come to kill somebody and was killed, and he has no right to kill somebody. If he has taken the laws in the hand and he has killed some innocent people, mass massacres, mass killings, I have no right to die. I know I didn't want to die, I want to live. And that man who decided my future by killing me, there is nothing in the law which should protect him, and he should be killed, he should be hanged. Much was the way I was killed or I was hanged. As simple. What?
Brad,
this is hypocrisy.
you hear the argument, you hear the applause. This is a passionate plea that justice must be proportional. If somebody else can decide to take it into their own hands to decide whether you or your family or your loved ones live and die, that gives the state the right to make the same determination.
Well, it's very easy to get emotional about this and be demagogic, which I think you are being. You're proposing the law of the jungle. And I want you all to think about what it means to be human, and what it means to live in a civilized society. The principle at stake here is it right to kill? Every death sentence, when it's carried out, is a premeditated killing. And I think there's nothing more abhorrent to be calmly taken out, to have the law sanction the premeditated and planned killing of that person. Is that the kind of society we want to live in? Yes, we feel emotional. Yes, we feel upset. I work on human rights all over Asia. We document atrocities all over the place.
You're talking about America.
No, I just said Asia. We document atrocities.
If America you're talking about in your country enters Pakistan and kills Osama bin Laden and throws him into the sea, why did you do that then? Why did your country do that?
So,
why did your country do that? So it's very easy to talk and very easy to practice.
This is demagoguery, because we have opposed that. So I may be American, but I'm not the American government. You are Indian, you're not the Indian government. So let's not play that game.
Okay. That's a fair game. Meenakshi, explain to us first, you know, before we get lost in passion, what is the legal basis for the death penalty? What is the moral and legal basis for the death penalty?
You see, every judicial system, and because he talked about judicial systems, I'm talking about judicial systems. Every judicial system recognizes that till the country becomes law of the jungle as he claims to be, the governance and the government has to preempt that. If my family is going to be slaughtered day in and day out, and I can do damn all about it, then there will come a time that people will start picking up guns and shooting at each other, and that will become the law of the jungle. It's better that we have a legal system, we have a judicial system, we have a system where a person is given all chances to prove himself innocent and free of guilt, and post that only death penalty or any penalty is given. In our country, we have a system of trial, appeal, second appeal, and post all that, if there is a conviction and a person gets death penalty, even that has to be reaffirmed. So after going through so many processes, if the government of India decides a death penalty has to be given to any one person under the law, then it's better it's executed that way, else it will become law of the jungle.
If we don't kill the killers, people will take law into their own hands and keep killing everyone.
No, I'm afraid it's simple, Jehangir. If today I know that if I kill somebody, I'm safe, I'm in the jail, I will not be punished. So if you don't create that fear in the minds of people that I will not be punished to that level, it's easy for me.
Okay,
I would like to ask,
let me put one thing to you. In Norway, when we saw that horrific killing right now, we all saw that the man who basically gunned down these innocent people with an automatic rifle, when the cop showed up, just gave them his gun and said, okay, I surrender, because he knew, to Ashok's point, that he would be safe.
Look at the greatness
of this.
I want to ask this I want to ask this very simple question. I haven't heard many people asking this question. In what manner can death sentence be understood as a form of punishment? Let me please finish. You can answer after I finish making my point here. I would like to only say one thing. When you punish somebody, except with death sentence, what happens is that person is put behind bars. He is either undergoing simple imprisonment or he is undergoing rigorous imprisonment. His freedoms are taken away. His rights are taken away, many of them. You kill somebody, he is dead and gone. Who is suffering the punishment? The person who is suffering the punishment is a family that he is left behind. So what nonsense is this to say that death punishment is actually a form of punishing the wrongdoer? Let me tell you, let me finish here. Death sentence is something that is not part of the Indian ethos, and I will give you my reasons for doing that. You look at the ancient Dharma Shastras, what are the reasons for awarding death sentence to somebody? You will not come across most of these heinous crimes that are being mentioned here. I'll give you only 2 examples. Manu Dharma Shastra says death sentence must be awarded to a woman who is not faithful to her husband. Kautilya's Arthashastra says that if a thief enters the royal treasury and commits robbery, he takes away the king's revenues, then he is entitled to death penalty. Should we then toe the line of the yoga expert Ramdev that bribery should invite death sentence because it's a glorious Indian tradition? This is the single question to ask: in what manner is death punishment a punishment?
Let us not get into the history. One sec.
Ashok, I've been dying to speak.
Yeah.
Retributive form of justice is a well-recognized system of justice. And
it is not a civilized system of justice. That is the whole point.
And he's comparing. Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Correct, absolutely.
You are getting Manu Shastra and all other.
No,
we are talking about the glorious Indian tradition which these 2 people here want to represent. They want to take us back to those days.
What they have done to the rascals.
And I would only want to repeat what Mr. Ram Jethmalani has said. I only want to quote one sentence of Mr. Ram Jethmalani, who is from their party. He said, the test of any civilized society, is the manner in which it treats the people it hates. I want to repeat here. Mr. Ram Jethmalani said,
Venkatesh, we've heard the point. Guys, please, let's give, 1 minute, let's give it over to the audience. Sir, you are getting a chance to speak. Sir,
it is from their own party that this.
hold on a minute. Ashok, please. We're not going to make any point to the viewer. No one in the audience is going to get the point. Isn't this, I want to come to one thing. I will come back to the idea of the basis of justice and whether Indian justice or Homer talked about justice as vengeance, but after him, Plato and Aristotle repudiated that themselves. Meenakshi, if you let us take this point to the audience, deterrence seems to be at the heart of what you were saying. It makes people fearful of committing a wrong. And retribution, as I said, the ancient idea which then many have repudiated, even Western societies and our own. But there's something else, and I want to bring in someone from the audience here. When you look at a court passing judgment on someone, that is after a process of law, after he has been arrested, questioned, investigated. In our country, how much can we rely on that to make sure that the man we are killing is actually guilty? That the process of investigation, of forensics, of policing are secure and firm enough to let us feel secure that we have not committed the crime of killing an innocent. I want to ask Captain Rathore. We've invited him here so that he can tell his story. Very briefly, Captain Rathore was in the Indian Army, sir. Tell us your story.
I am Captain Rathore of a very known case, Samba Spy case. I was falsely implicated, arrested, and tortured not for a day or two, for months together, so brutally that it's difficult to define. And they made out a case against me. Then I was forced to confess and name other people also, and they built up the entire thing into a case now called Samba Spy case. Gentlemen, I just want to tell you one thing, that there is a death sentence for treason, and the case which was imposed on me under the Army Act was covered for treason also, and there is a death penalty, but for my good luck, I was tried under the civil offense by the Army court only. And they created a certainty into a degree that I was convicted for 14 years. I could have been sentenced to death also. But today I am alive, and I've been able to show to the people that this was a total national betrayal. Had I been hanged or put to death, everything would have been gone under the carpet, nobody would have known what has happened to this case.
There is a difference in what you are saying and what we are saying.
No, there is no difference.
One sec, let me complete. You said something, I heard you. What we are trying to say, here there are killers who themselves accept that we have killed. What do you tell about that? Kasab says I have killed. Afzal Guru says I have attacked. Yasin Malik says I have killed so many army officers. They say we have killed. There are video footages where they have accepted. There are two differences. Terrorists, when they kill, they say they accept the responsibility that we have killed. JKLF says we have attacked. Hizbul Mujahideen says we have attacked. All the terrorist organizations say we have done that.
Brad,
so there is a difference.
How would you
so let us deviate two things together.
Well, I think the point is the question of innocence is there. And Human Rights Watch published a report 2 years ago called Broken System. And it was based on interviews with police officers who admitted that they routinely are involved in torture to gain confessions. Now, what was interesting about this report is that we also reported on the conditions of the police. They don't get paid enough, they don't have regular working hours, they can be transferred at a moment's notice, they don't have enough forensic support, they don't have enough equipment, they have to pay for their own paper to do copies. They are under massive pressure to solve cases, and they are often told, solve cases any way you can. And they admitted to us, please read the report, it's on our website, they admitted to us that they fabricate evidence, that they torture confessions out of people, and that these tactics lead to convictions of innocent people. Some of those police officers admitted that they were involved in encounter killings. The system of justice here needs some improvement. It's not the worst system in the world. I'm not trying to say that Indian justice never works, but there are significant problems in many parts of the country that can lead to innocent people being convicted. And once those people are convicted, it is very hard to reverse the conviction on appeal.
All right. Well, on that note, we need to take a quick break. We'll be back in just 2 minutes with this very passionate and contentious debate. Dead men walking. Should India continue with the death penalty? Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Dead Men Walking. Before the break, a passionate debate on whether the death penalty has a place in India's idea of justice or not. Now, before we go ahead, some facts. 55 people, the number of people that have been killed in India since independence. 25, the number of people who are on death row today. Most of them are not terrorists. Let me give you the example of 3. I was looking through this list. Malai Ram raped and killed a woman, the daughter of his jailer. Shyam Manohar killed people in a property dispute when he was angered and provoked, he claims. But a property dispute, not terrorism. Pyara Singh, kidnapping and murder. The list goes on. Of the 25-odd people right now on death row, the large majority of them are not terrorists, Ashok Pandit. Large majority of them are people who have committed heinous crimes. But my question, Venkatesh, is not just that. Even if one propagates the fact, as Meenakshi is, that if someone rapes and murders, he must get a death sentence. For justice to be just, mustn't it be uniform? There are people who've raped and killed. There are hundreds and scores of people like this all over our country. Why only these 21, forgetting the 4 terrorists who are on death row? What does that say of our justice system, Venkatesh?
No, I wouldn't go that way at all. My simplest question to ask is this. Mr. Pandit also posed that question to you. Let me ask a counter question. The person who knowingly killed had no respect for life. We want that person to be killed. How does that make us any different from him? How does that make us any different from him? We also want the person.
No, we don't want to be different.
It is just that we want the state to kill.
I think Neelam would speak on this. I think Neelam can speak on this.
Because
if he has killed me, he should be killed.
We want the state to kill him because we have no longer got the right to kill somebody.
Yes.
And let me ask a simple question.
It's unethical to kill somebody.
How do we decide? How do we decide for what action somebody's life is forfeit? How do we decide?
Meenakshi, what's your response?
My response to this is very simple, that if we don't want this system to go on propagating. He kills me, I kill him. One family kills one, the other family kills the other. The government has to step in. There has to be a system of justice that before people start picking up guns and start shooting each other.
So
to prevent that. To prevent
No,
that.
but you're implying
Because
that without death sentence, the entire Indian society will break down?
Retributive system is a well-recognized system. Justice for whom? Who can't protect themselves.
Okay.
State has to
So
step in
Brad,
to protect
guys,
those
so Brad,
civilians. That is one. The
retribution
second is, I am
Is
going
still
back
the
to
basis
Brian because
that
that's
5,000 years ago, Homer talked about retributive
No,
justice.
no, 5,000
It was
years
turned
ago.
back. No,
No,
Meenakshi,
no,
you've made the point.
The human
Retributive
nature,
justice
the human nature
is
has
what
not
you're
changed
asking
much.
for.
On the contrary,
You made the point. Now let Brad make his
No,
point.
Brian,
You've talked about
I wanted
retributive
to-
justice.
I just wanted to add to, because that has gone unanswered and that becomes a final word. His report, when he talks about Asia Human Rights Watch, a very simple fact which I want to bring is that most of this is propagated by certain interested groups, one. So they are suffering from their own inbuilt biases. Number two, if these fabrications were so correct and they could deliver justice, then so many people who are actually culprits would not be walking free in this country.
Well, first, we work on, just so you all know, because you may not know about Human Rights Watch, we work on countries all over the world. We've produced far more reports on the United States than we do on India. We have criticized Guantanamo. We've criticized the Bush administration. We've called for the criminal investigation of George Bush, Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld. We are not taking sides based on nationality. The report we published was based on interviews with police officers. So if they were biased against themselves, then our report might have been biased.
Brad, we have someone here from the audience who has first-hand experience of this.
Please.
I want to ask Mrs. Bullar to speak. We all know the name Bullar.
Yeah.
He's one of the people that many are crying for to be executed. We're very lucky to have with us his mother today.
पुलिस सिस्टम इतना खराब है ना, किसी को भी टॉर्चर करके कुछ भी करवा सकते हैं. मेरे बेटे को इन्होंने इतना ज़्यादा टॉर्चर किया करके, वो एक इंजीनियर ग्रेजुएट है, तो उससे अंगूठा लगा लिया प्लेन पेपर पर और उस पर उन्होंने कन्फेशनल स्टेटमेंट बना ली. वही उन्होंने कोर्ट में रख दी. जो सीनियर जज है उसने तो मेरे बेटे को बरी कर दिया. तो जो दो जज थे उन्होंने उसको कन्फेशनल स्टेटमेंट पर डेथ पेनल्टी
कन्फेशन स्टेटमेंट पर डेथ पेनल्टी नहीं होती जी.
कर दी उन्होंने.
मैं आपको बता रही हूँ, मतलब मैं एज ए लॉयर आपको बता रही हूँ, सिर्फ कन्फेशनल स्टेटमेंट और स्टेटमेंट बिफोर पुलिस ऑफिसर इज नॉट एडमिटेड इन लॉ.
उसको कन्फेस
वो कानून की बात है.
यहाँ पर बिट्टा का होना बहुत जरूरी था.
Let me
बिट्टा
ask-
आपको जरूर जवाब देता है.
Let's
मेरी
ask for a
बात तो
show of
सुन ले.
hands. How many
मेरी बात
people
तो
in
सुन
the
ले
audience
आप.
believe that the Indian police
मेरी
use
बात तो
torture
सुन
and
ले.
forced confessions
उसी-
as a mode of
how many
functioning?
people-
Just put up your hands.
स्टेटमेंट
Question Jehangir should be, how many people believe that judges will give penalty and death penalty
उसी
to
statement
people
पर दी है.
only based on the confessional
It
statement
has
before the
happened,
police?
Jehangir.
How many people
Jehangir,
believe
no,
that?
let me point
no.
out.
जो पेपर
Let me
पर
point
पुलिस ने
out.
लिखी ना,
आज के तारीख में राजीव गांधी जी के असैसिनेशन केस में
देखो,
3 लोग
उसके-
डेथ रो पे हैं. The major basis on which they have been convicted is their confessional statement, because the law under which they were convicted was TADA. The Supreme Court said in the judgment that this is not a crime committed under TADA,
Ma'am,
but
आप
went and
देखो,
awarded death
उसके
sentence
father-
on the
Sir,
basis of
please
the
let her
confessional
speak.
statement.
Please let her speak.
What is this? What rubbish is being presented in front of the people? In
There's
some
a-
cases, confessional statement will lead to death sentences.
Venkatesh, excuse
There's
me.
a proper judiciary.
That is
The case is
precisely
argued.
why-
The case is argued in the court. You have a defense
Excuse me.
lawyer.
Look,
You have a pro
excuse
lawyer.
me. I know all of you can shout louder than Mrs. Bullar, but I have called her here, and I would like her to speak. Madam, please go ahead.
मेरे हस्बैंड को और मेरे जीजा को घर से उठा लिया, घर से उठाकर उनको टॉर्चर करके मार दिया. और वो पुलिस ऑफिसर तो घूम रहे हैं ऐसे मौज से. और जो बुल्लर है उसको उसके जो पेपर पर पुलिस ने लिखी स्टेटमेंट, उससे उसको फांसी की सजा दे दी.
नहीं, आपको खाली सिस्टम समझा रहे हैं. कन्फेशन स्टेटमेंट बिफोर अ पुलिस ऑफिसर इज नॉट एडमिसिबल और कन्फेशन होती है जज के आगे.
Madam, I just want to tell you about the confessional statements. This, again, my own case. The entire Samba case is built on confessional statements. That's the end of it. There is nothing true in this.
Sir, I have to, with due respect to you.
And not only the army court,
with
even the civil courts right up to the Supreme Court has thrown our cases out.
With
Till
due respect,
2000, of course.
With due respect to you, I think you need to go back and ask this question: how many culprits or accused will admit to their crime after they have come back?
Let me say one thing, is let's move on from this point. I think what has to be said has been said. We leave it to the viewer to make up their mind about the efficacy and accuracy of Indian policing and the evidence that is placed before the courts. What I want to now go into is the idea of terrorism. If we separate crimes committed by citizens, like rape, heinous crimes, but we focus on terrorism and accept that perhaps terrorists should be classified as in the US, as say an enemy combatant, a man who is on camera killed someone who has no respect for life, so should not care about his own.
Absolutely.
Why not put terrorists in a separate category, particularly given the level of problem India faces on terrorism? And Venkatesh, why not allow terrorism to be taken out of this context? Because under the sort of argument of killing terrorists, so many other innocent citizens who commit crimes like rape and kidnapping are being killed.
Jehangir, the single biggest problem with that argument is, how do you define what is a terrorist act? For the time being, let us just keep Kasab's case aside. I will come to Kasab's case a little later. How many of you remember that when TADA was in place, which was the state that had the largest number of people behind bars under TADA? It was Gujarat, which had never had a problem of terrorists. Jharkhand, there was a 13-year-old boy under Pocha and an 80-year-old man under Pocha. What were their crimes? They were carrying a copy of Mao's Red Book. This is all public information available. I'm not talking about media reports, I'm talking about legal documents. How do you call somebody a terrorist? Whom do you call somebody a terrorist, and who is the judge of that? I want to answer just one question in the context of Kasab. Of course, all of us saw Kasab doing what he did. I go back to this whole point. He had no respect for life. Should we also behave in the same manner? Point number one. Point number two is this whole issue of retributive justice. Do you know that the reason why somebody called Paramatma Sarana was given clemency in this country, what was the major basis for that? Because the victim's father wrote to the government and said, please do not give him the death sentence. In the context of the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case, the moment the mercy petition was submitted to the President of India, Mrs. Gandhi and her family wrote to the President, Mr. APJ Abdul Kalam in those days, sorry, Mr. K.R. Narayanan, and said that we do not want them to be hanged by the state. Whose retribution are we talking about here?
I think it's very admirable. If my wife or kids were killed, I would want to tear the murderer limb from limb. We all have those emotions. I would absolutely want to do that. But we live in a civilized society, and we should not do that. And the message that Sonia Gandhi sent, or that these families send, is very powerful, which is, it will not bring back my loved one to kill somebody else. Yes. Killing is wrong, and we do not want this to continue. We want it to stop.
Meenakshi?
Yeah, I think Sonia Gandhi's message has been much misread, because this was the very government which sent this message when DMK was a coalition partner in the center. Same government has signed off the death penalty right now when AIADMK comes in the state. And same government is sitting over Afzal Guru's petition. When NC is in power, the day PDP comes, they'll sign it off. Same case with Bullar's case. When Congress was in power in Punjab, they did not sign the mercy petition, and they have rejected it now when Congress is out of power.
Venkatesh,
so that
a quick question. Isn't part of the problem with death penalty that it becomes politicized?
It is politics.
Here, Sonia Gandhi's statement has been politicized.
Exactly.
Maybe it was political, maybe it wasn't, but someone has assumed it is. Now they're assuming Afzal Guru's situation is politicized.
There are two issues here. There are two issues here.
We are only seeing the timing.
If I can please answer his question. You see, it is not just Sonia Gandhi. Take the case of Miss Gladys Staines. Her husband and her son were burnt brutally in Kandhamal. What did she say? The trial had not yet begun. Death penalty was not even awarded in that case. She said, I forgive that fellow, because she is believing in the ethics of, in the morality of a religion where Jesus Christ said the same thing on the cross about people who tortured him and sentenced him to death. Now that is the true human nature. And forgiving is not because that person feels weak and therefore cannot take retributive action against the person. It's what Mahatma Gandhi said, that I forgive somebody from the point of view of moral strength because I do not want to behave the way that person has behaved.
Okay, Brad, let me ask you this. You observe this issue all over the world as part of your job. In countries that have had the death penalty and then given it up, what have you seen that drove them to make that change?
Where the death penalty has been lifted, I just think that these arguments over time have taken hold, that people don't get any satisfaction out of seeing somebody killed.
Is there any statistical evidence that the death penalty is a deterrent? That
Well, that's what I wanted to say earlier. That every study, every comprehensive study has shown that it is not a deterrent. It doesn't save future lives.
Okay, we'll have to take a quick break, but before that, someone from the general audience who wants to make a point. The woman here in the white.
One of the reasons that the deterrence is decreasing day by day. I mean, we all see that appeals are pending in front of the president, but we try to set an example, but actually we aren't setting an example because these have been pending over the period of time. Governments change, they keep pending. So on that, ma'am, I would want to take.
I'll answer that. Miss, I think this is precisely the point I was trying to make. When a judicial process has taken charge of a particular case and has decided in a particular manner, thereafter the politicking, international pressures, money flowing in for various NGOs, and administrative lethargy should not come in the way. That's my take. It is coming in the way, and that's where this debate. I think you people should question why this delay. When the courts have decided, when appeals have been disposed of, when second appeal has been disposed of, who is anybody to intervene thereafter?
And then adding to that, even this, the tragedy of this country is even this is taken on the platter of a vote bank. You see, the vote banks become important whether, I should oppose this hanging or I should support this hanging. This is a tragedy. The issue remains behind. The killing remains behind. The victim remains behind. The killer remains behind. If by hanging him, I'm losing votes, I should not hang him.
Why should fear factor in society be not addressed?
All right, on that note, Meenakshi, we'll have to take a quick break. We'll be right back. We'll be back with Dead Men Walking in just 2 minutes. Don't go away. Welcome back to Dead Men Walking. We're debating the death penalty and whether India as a democracy, as a country that strives to rise to be more civilized, should in fact be holding on to this form of punishment. First question, we can debate a lot about the death penalty, but a very simple question, Ashok. Why do we still hang people? People can be killed by lethal injection. People can be electrocuted. There are far more humane ways to kill people. I'm just curious, why do we still persist even in hanging? Why even the most brutal, outdated form of carrying out capital punishment? What do you think about that? Why?
You see, if I as a accused, if I have killed somebody, the way I have killed, the way, for instance, Kasab or Afzal Guru have attacked the country, they have attacked the nation. And the brutality with which they have killed or done the act, it's obvious. If I give him an injection and kill him, the kind of message which goes around the world, around the country is that fine, it's a very soft nation. And it doesn't believe in, reacting the way they have reacted. I want that man to be hanged the way he has killed me, the way he has hanged me.
Venkatesh,
as simple as that.
Tear them apart with wild horses? Should we go down the sort of Saudi way of justice?
Please appreciate the fact as to why hanging was found as the best way of executing somebody in many places, including India. The scientific argument apparently behind that was that the moment you are hung and your whole body weight is being borne by a bone on the nape of your neck, it cracks. And at that point, you actually have, for men, there is a sexual release. And therefore, you don't feel the pain of death. But what happens in situations when the person doesn't die, the neck doesn't break, but he's still hanging there? And nobody who suffered the lethal injection came back to life and told us, yes, this is a very humane way of dying. I didn't feel any pain at all. Nobody said that.
I think answer to that is the best way is If a guy has killed me with injection, you kill him with injection. If that guy has killed me with gun, I should shoot him with gun.
No, we are saying
Simple.
simply don't
Tit
kill.
for tat.
Simply
Tit for
don't
tat.
kill.
Simple. There's no
Simply
reason.
don't
Okay,
kill.
someone
Simple
here
don't
from the
kill.
audience.
If he has killed me,
Do
I have
not
to kill
condemn him to death.
If he has killed me, I have to kill him. As point blank as possible.
Sir, one question, sir. If a guy has raped and killed you,
Sorry?
if a guy has raped and killed you,
Oh, sorry.
what do you do then? What do you do then, sir?
One second. I didn't hear you.
If a guy has raped and killed you, are you going to rape him and kill him?
Why not? Why not? The boss,
Well said,
the boss
well
done that.
said. Well
He
said.
should be killed the worst way.
Okay.
If he's done both the things, he should be killed the worst way.
This particular point that you're making, that what is the more humane way of death treatment, aren't we presupposing the fact that all of us here have agreed to the death penalty? Why are we coming to this discussion in the first
I'm
place?
just exploring. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I brought this question up. Because I want to explore this concept of what this does to the culture of our people, what this does to the culture of a state that believes that violence is a justified punishment, a state that believes that it has the right to use violence to exert its force, the force of law. I want to show you some clippings that I personally think show how it, very subconsciously perhaps, but how the state and people, instruments of the state, use violence to exert their will. Take a look at these clippings. This is not terror. This is a separate point that I think is as important as terror, which we've talked about and will talk about again. This is about a culture that is now being spread. Brad, what I want to ask you is, do you see a connect between a state that allows violence in the courts and subconsciously, implicitly, people of the state believe that they allowed violence in their way of solving problems and dispensing justice?
Well, I think one of the most inconsistent things or unproven things that have been said today is Meenakshi said that if you don't have the death penalty, there will be vigilante behavior in public. We've had in India one execution since 1999, the last 12 years. How much mob justice do you see in India?
I want to pose a question to you, and it's my concern that since last 20 years, we are the victims of terrorism in Kashmir, and even now. I have not seen yet in any human rights NGOs or watches and all those kind of organizations talk about my exodus, my persecution, my ethnic cleansing, my genocide in last 20 years. So
May I answer you?
do you choose issues?
May I answer?
For instance, in the wings, you told me that did army throw you out? So you're not aware of who threw Kashmiri Pandits, the minority from Kashmir, out. You're not aware of that. So my doubt in the credibility of your organization raises to a different stage.
Okay.
And I, for that matter, want to be very clear, sir, that we have to talk about victims also. We have to talk about victims. If today I see a killer, an assassinator who has raped and killed my people openly moving on the road, what do you expect me to do? What kind of message you are giving to the audience? What kind of message you are giving to a common man? This is what I want to ask.
Okay.
I need to respond to that, please. You can find our work at www.hrw.org. And if you will look,
Hundreds of them,
you should do your homework before you make accusations.
I've done my homework, and that's why I'm
If
asking
you,
that to you.
if you look at our report in 2006, which I went to Srinagar and released, and where I met the Corps commander, and I met people in civil society, that report documented army abuses and militant abuses. That is why the Corps commander invited us to meet him, because we are even-handed and impartial. We documented both sides. We criticized absolutely terrorist attacks and militant attacks. And we are all about victims. Our entire work is based on victims.
Okay, let's hear from a victim.
Please do your homework.
Did you visit refugee camps in Jammu? Did you visit refugee camps in Jammu?
I personally did not, but our staff did.
Let's, as we were talking about earlier, let's bring in Mrs. Kataria. Let's bring in someone who can give the point of view of a victim. Go ahead, madam.
Where do I begin? I'll talk to Mr. Venkatesh, who talks of the medieval mindset. We're not talking of India of Manu. We're not talking of America or any other country. I speak of India as it is in the 21st century. Let's talk of electoral reforms. Let's talk of police reforms. And let's talk of judicial reforms before we think of just removing one thing, which is the capital punishment. When you talk of a medieval mindset in killing somebody, I stand here today not because I'm going to get my son back or I'm bloodthirsty, but because any of these children and the children outside could suffer what my son suffered. Who is going to take care of them? If you allow people to get away without, and when you talk about revenge, death penalty being revenge, you said yourself, and he quoted Homer, that all justice is revenge. Are you thinking of giving up? No. Are you talking of giving up all punishment? When you say even life, if that were even life imprisonment, if I ask for that, is revenge. So do we give up all punishment? If we don't, then again, let's come to facts as they are. The people who killed my son inherited the right to kill. The father had killed about 400 people, and he's making laws for the state which I come from. He's an MLA in Uttar Pradesh. Why? Because you are not spreading the fear of capital punishment. This is again a country. What life imprisonment are you talking about?
After one murder.
When I go and I speak to the higher-ups over here about my son's killers being out on false pleas in hospitals, in restaurants, in hotels, I'm told, why don't you go to the court? I have spent 10 years going to the court. I don't have time to diverge from the main issue, which is getting these people capital punishment. I don't have time to go there each time and say how they get false medical certificates, how they go to the All India Institute, spend whole days there, in absolute VIP treatment. So there is no punishment. Either you say murder should not be punished, life imprisonment for somebody who is rich and powerful is no punishment. That is one. Now, because these rich and powerful get away with it, therefore the poor are following suit. If he can do it, why not me? And therefore, crime is petering all the way down because we are not able to check it. So get me judicial reforms, get me police reforms. First of all, get me electoral reforms and get that honor killing removed before you even think about having no capital punishment in this country.
Someone... Okay. On that very powerful and poignant note, we have to take a quick break. But when we're back, we'll talk more about the death penalty, what it means for the people of our country who are the victims of crime and terror, but what it also means for our country in the way it develops, grows, and evolves. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Dead Men Walking. We're debating the death penalty and its place in modern India. Venkatesh, Brad, there's one condition that makes me reconsider the idea that you should abolish death penalty, particularly in terror. You take a terrorist, you put him in jail. 3 of his friends hijack an airliner and say, release him or we'll blow the airliner up. A state's primary job is to protect its citizens. In an environment like this, in a case like this, when by keeping someone alive, you are almost certainly endangering the lives of scores or hundreds of your own citizens, shouldn't the death penalty be not only valid but necessary?
First of all, our law says treat everybody equally. Article 14 of the Constitution. We cannot say that, okay, for these kinds of crimes, we are going to have death penalty. We're going to, that person's life is forfeit, but for other kinds of crimes, their lives are not forfeit.
No, that's a good legalistic argument, but it doesn't solve the problem.
The problem is just this, that of course, there's another argument that is made, which I'm surprised that you haven't mentioned. Look at the cost on the taxpayer for keeping Kasab behind bars. This is a necessary cost for ensuring the due process of law happens in this country, because that is a constitutional guarantee. I only want to end my case here by making a statement which was made by the president of the Israeli Supreme Court while trying out a case against terrorists. He said terrorists fight to violate the law. The state fights to uphold the law. And that's the reason why the state must stick to what the law is, and the state must stick to a law that is reasonable, informed by human rights values, and having death penalty on the statute book is a complete negation of all the international human rights instruments that India has ratified and signed, because there we have said that, sorry, we will agree with all the human rights, but we want death penalty. That's a reservation that has been entered.
I find it, it's so contradictory in so many ways. The first thing is, if right to uphold the law is with the state, is the law not being upheld after giving due process to even people like Kasab? We are paying that money which can be well spent on some other ailing man, some other poor woman, or somebody else, but we are spending money just to prove a point that we are following due process. We are even giving him amicus curiae, we are even giving him lawyers. Now, when we are providing all this under the due process of law and governance, let the process be, and we are fine with it. After a decision has come, what makes the government sit over that? That should be the debate. What makes the administrative body to decide on a judicial judgment?
Brad, many people argue that actually India is the model. Actually, India is the country that has found the right answer, because what we have done is award the death penalty by law only in the rarest of the rare cases. Since 1947, in 63 years of independence, we have only given capital punishment to 55 people, less than one a year. Very few countries with the death penalty can exhibit a record like that with a population of our size and conditions of our size. Maybe the answer is here. Maybe we already have the answer, and that there is no need to go to either extreme.
The public anger is very easy to feed. It's very easy to stand up here and get emotional and scream and shout. And there is a risk that, just like in the United States, which had a moratorium for many years, that once public anger gets fueled, people get a little taste of blood as a matter of revenge, that the floodgates will open. So the best thing to do is to end this practice once and for all, not make it possible. This is the march of history. This is where the world is going. India can be a leader in this. And I think that India should be proud of its record over the last 12 years, 13 years.
I have a fundamental problem with taking away life on a gray area, because fundamentally today you don't know where to draw the line between who should be given a life imprisonment and who should be sent to death. So let's not talk about capital punishment until you can resolve that gray area.
Yeah, people who are on life punishment are having a great time over there. You cannot enforce life punishment because people can buy comfort, people can buy medical certificates. So virtually there is no punishment.
They can even buy release.
After 40,
they can buy early
and
release.
again, sorry, I don't know how I forgot this. There is no life punishment in India. After 14 years, anyone who can get a certificate of good behavior from the jailer can just step out. So don't call something which, so what is the punishment for murder in this country? If it is not death, it is not life. It's 14 years after which a person can come back and kill the rest of the family in
if you plug
comfort.
that loophole, you'll actually have people
I'm sorry,
opening
that
to
is
allow you the lack of death
misinformation.
penalty.
Please
make
read
life
the
into
Supreme
life.
Court decisions on the various death penalty matters.
I
The
have
Supreme
read
Court has
each
very
one of
clearly
them.
said death means death. Point number one.
Sorry, but it means
At
that
the
after
end-
14 years you can go in for
At the-
remission.
That's
You
exactly
couldn't
what I'm
have
saying.
read
At the
that-
end
you
of
couldn't
14
have read
years,
that more than
you
I
can be
have.
considered for release
But
on
why
parole
have
or
that,
on
Venkatesh?
Exactly.
If
It's
you
all-
are
and
sitting
it's
here and
very
arguing,
easy.
Life means
It's
the
life.
point
very
is, if you
easy
are sitting
for
and
the
arguing that the
politically
death penalty
powerful
is
to get
wrong,
that.
and as
You
Meenakshi
see,
is
you're-
saying that people demand
sorry,
justice,
there
why not
is
give
no
them
life
that justice in
punishment. You
place
take
of
away
death
even
penalty?
death
Give
punishment.
them real life in jail. Life
Life
in jail
should
means
be for
life
life.
in jail, no question. Of
That's
parole.
what the
And that's-
Supreme Court
so
order
how
says.
can you
I've
not
read
support
it and
that?
I've
See,
read
what we-
commentaries on it also. I'm not
That
a
was
lawyer.
my central
No,
argument.
I'll
You keep the
answer.
person in prison,
No, he's
deny the person his
misrepresenting the
freedoms,
facts.
and let that be for life.
So you
But
support
if-
that?
But,
So you
but at the
support
same
life for
time,
life.
But at the same time, of course, there are many instances where the rich and powerful misuse the system. That is something that cannot be used as an argument for retaining it on the
So
statute
they
book.
use the
We
same
need to plug. We
argument.
need to plug it. We need to plug those
You use
loopholes.
the same
But at the
argument.
same
Those
time,
arguments are
but at the same
available to
time, let
you.
me also make one
So
point
like
very clear.
Meenakshi said, go and plug the loopholes first.
Just because that's exactly what you are working on, ma'am. Prison reform and police reform.
So till the
There
time,
are-
let
you will
people
not
get
look.
hanged, yeah?
I'm sorry, but that is such a
So,
crazy
let people
argument.
get hanged.
That's such a
Till the
crazy
time you
argument
find
to
the
say.
loopholes, yeah.
And then when you plug the loopholes, you find out that somebody was hung.
Let's hear from one more
wrongly.
person in the audience. Go ahead, sir.
Sir, my questions are all directed to you. Firstly, when you say that you are, Venkat sir, if I'm not wrong, So sir, firstly, you start quoting, I think in India the basic problem is people start quoting the ancient law without even knowing what ancient law actually is. So I'll quote Yagnavalkya Smriti for you, sir. I'll quote Yagnavalkya Smriti for you, sir, which states that Rajdand is equivalent to Mrityu Dand, wherein criminal conspiracy against the state has been recognized with the prior, the penalty being death penalty. Secondly, sir, there is a difference between what is conviction under judicial proceedings and clemency, because judicial proceedings are apolitical, clemency, however, is political. So that does not matter under which political party you represent, you will always stand by it. Thirdly, sir, on the matter of when you are saying that the rich people can get out of the law, and sir, I have to bring this to the notion, we have been working in Tihar jails and we know the kind of systems, the kind of disparity which is shown with the prisoners who are actually reeling under the pain and people who are enjoying the benefits. So they build Hilton near Tihar jail complex so that they can avail all the facilities together. Thank you so much.
Can I just say, I think that your points, except for the point about the death penalty, which I profoundly disagree, are very important. And the sense of injustice in society because people can manipulate the system, because the rich are treated different than the poor, leads to people calling for blood. So these kinds of inequities lead to people in different communities feeling that they need the death penalty to solve other problems. When the problems are not about the death penalty, the problems are about the administration of justice. Yes. And it's very important to tackle all those problems all the way up to the chain where the sentence is given. And at that point, I will disagree with you, because the sentence should not be death, because that degrades all of us.
Give us closing statements. Ashok Pandit, go ahead.
As a common man of this country, as a victim of terrorism, where I've lost a lot of people from my families because of terrorists in Kashmir, I seek justice, and I, as a citizen of this country, want them to be punished the way they killed me, the way they hounded me out of the house. I want to see a similar level, of punishment to them. No concession at all.
Brad. There are principled reasons and practical reasons to oppose the death penalty. The principled reason is that it is wrong to kill. The practical reason, the only practical reason I can see, is that the death penalty is a deterrent. Yet study after study shows that it doesn't stop future killing.
What do I need government for? For policing, for military action, for all those actions that I cannot indulge myself in. And that is where capital punishment is the requirement.
Venkatesh, you have the last word.
Yes, of course. My whole point is this. The
He's
trend
already closed.
across the world is to abolish death penalty and for the state not to kill in these circumstances. That's exactly the route we should also be going. Thank you.
Okay, that's what we have from the audience and our guests on the death penalty. Sunil Dutt once told me, a man I really enjoyed meeting, once told me, Jehangir, it is not what we feel that differentiates us. It's what we do with those feelings that makes you who you are and me who I am. When we are hurt, we will feel pain. But how we choose to direct that pain, whether into vengeance or forgiveness, is a matter that's very personal. But now increasingly a matter that is also becoming national. The issue of the death sentence, not an easy one, but one India will not and cannot shy away from. Let's thank all our guests for being with us tonight. Let's thank you. You've been a great audience. Thanks for your participation. Don't go away. There's much more coming up on the other side.